Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I've got a question for all of you. What do you remember about the third wave of ska that took place in the 1990s? I remember it all too well because I was in the thick of it. It was my ramp and my launch pad into singing for bands. I remember so fondly some of the music of bands like Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake, Rancid, The Urge, Goldfinger, and more well-known acts like Sublime and No Doubt. But there was one band in particular that had this really outgoing lead singer, and to this day, she is still as entertaining as can be. Save Ferris became known for their cover of Come On Eileen, or their original song, The World Is New. Or maybe you remember seeing them in the movie 10 Things I Hate About You. On this episode of Caught on the Mic, I get the distinct pleasure of speaking with Monique Powell, lead singer of Save Ferris. We talk a little bit about the past, some about the present, and a whole lot about the future. And speaking of the future, July 23rd, 2024, Save Ferris will be coming to my area of Omaha, Nebraska with The Offspring for a show that I'm really excited for. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It is great. I had so much fun, a lot of laughs with Monique, and I know you're going to laugh yourself to death, especially when her cat makes an appearance randomly. Watch for it. It'll happen. It's funny. So I hope you enjoy Monique Powell of Save Ferris on Caught on the Mic today. And as always, listener and viewer discretion is advised. I love getting nostalgic without overly focusing on nostalgia. Little known fact about myself. When I was in college in the mid-90s, during the height of third wave ska, I had a ska band called 40 Sunday. We did some originals, but we also did covers. And one of the covers we did, and this is my first time hearing my next guest's voice, was a song called She Has a Girlfriend Now by Real Big Fish. And then the next thing I know, I hear an amazing cover of Come On Eileen, but that wasn't the Grand Slam. The Grand Slam was a song called The World Is New. And I am so excited to welcome my friend Monique Powell from Save Ferris to the podcast today. Mo, how the heck are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Michael Clark?
I'm pretty darn good. I'm not going to lie. I have been so excited to sit down and talk with you a little bit about the past, a lot about the present, and even more about the future. We will get to the future here in a little bit. There are so many exciting things going on for you right now. How pumped are you?
I'm excited for things to start moving. I'm a little impatient, but also very excited for the machine to start.
I spent a little bit of time on your social media earlier today, and I think something that is incredible about you, Monique Powell, the person, not necessarily Monique Powell of Save Ferris, is during the heat of the pandemic and going through the pandemic, you were very transparent about how you felt about what was going on in the world, and you were transparent about how it was impacting you personally. I will tell you that a lot of my podcast unintentionally has been predicated about this post-pandemic world and how we can make the world a better place and pushing ourselves forward. Just being honest, how does it feel kind of getting things up and going again in this post-COVID world?
It feels a lot like starting over. It's been a lot like starting over, like when I brought the band back in 2013, it was a start and stop process, and then it was a hurry up and go process. And once we were going, then COVID was like just, we were just rear-ended at that point into like a crash stop. And yeah, all of the momentum that I felt that were able to build for those few years was sort of dissipated over COVID, and our industry was diluted. So many venues closed, small or mid-sized venues closed. There was a Vegas show that I had been working on pre-COVID and through COVID, and it was for a lounge-sized venue in Las Vegas for a solo project. All of the lounges, or most or the majority of the lounges in Vegas, including the lounge that was going to be mine, closed down, and so that was no longer in the picture. And the size venues that say Ferris would have been touring in, so many of those closed down, and it just became a really sort of, it was hard. It was hard for all of us. It was hard for the people who work at the venues. It was hard for the people who ran the venues. It was hard for the musicians. It was hard for all of us. We had to figure out, okay, now what, for a few years, but it's getting better.
Yes. And that's kind of the same story that I have. I know going into 2020, I had recommitted myself to my mental fitness and my physical fitness. And I felt like I was in the best place I'd ever been in my entire life. And
during COVID?
No, right before.
Oh, right before.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was going to be like, during COVID, bitch.
God, no.
I drank myself into a stupor, babe. I drank myself until my intestines burned themselves out through my butthole.
No. So like,
Shoot.
I was, the minute the world shut down, I was walking around Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs, and I'm getting text messages from everybody. They're like, everything's shutting down. You got to get home. And then the gyms closed, and I fell out of my routines. Next thing I know, I'm in a mental health spiral over the past couple of years. And it feels like 2024 has really been like a reawakening. So taking all the bad things aside and kind of finding the silver lining, this year feels like the most normal it's felt in almost 4 years.
Yeah, I agree. That's how it is for me too. It's been a reawakening.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
I can't say, I was like the best I've ever been right before COVID, but I was definitely doing great. I was definitely getting there. I was like, I was going through some hard times. I was, coming out of a marriage, but it was like coming out of a 10-year relationship marriage, but then finding myself living on my own. And, it was hard because I had nothing. I left with nothing, basically. And then, found myself and
right.
I was finding myself, and I was like, wow, I was sleeping on an inflatable bed for 6 months. Like, who is this person? But it was still the greatest. It was the greatest because it was mine.
Right.
And I was making new friends, and then I decided I was going to live in England, and then it all happened.
Right.
COVIDium happened.
Oh my goodness. looking through windshields as opposed to looking through rear view mirrors, but taking a peek in that rear view mirror for a moment. Let's talk a little bit about your origin story, because, as I said in the intro, like, you brought a lot of joy to people in a short period of time in the late 90s. And I appreciate that. I love that. It brought a lot of joy into my life. I was a huge fan of the band. So how did you get your start, and how did Say Ferris come to be?
Well, those are two different stories, kind of. Which one do you want, both? Or
Let's give an amalgamation. Let's talk more about Mo.
So, I started singing when I was young, but I wasn't originally, and I didn't originally think I was going to be a ska singer. Wasn't the original plan.
Right.
But when I was going to Cal State Fullerton, here in Southern California, in Orange County, all my friends were in ska bands, and I went to high school with Real Big Fish, and they were my friends, and I was dating the bass player for some years, and I was also in a band with the bass player from a band called Suburban Rhythm, and it was a band called Larry, and we were just playing with Real Big Fish, and we were playing with all of these other ska bands, and I was friends with all of those guys, and it was just sort of like a normal thing that even though Larry wasn't a ska band, it was like a normal thing that we were like playing with Sublime, and we were like playing, festivals with No Doubt, and we were playing with all the local ska bands. We were playing all of the all ages shows in all of the all ages venues that were like blowing up here in Orange County. For some reason, there was just this like explosion of all ages venues out here. And it was super cool. And I was also a fan. I was also going to shows all the time in my teens, aside from being a singer in the sort of ska friendly band with these amazing musicians. But I knew that I wanted to be a lead singer in a ska band, A, because I loved the music, B, because, that was the scene that I was into, and I got into an all-girl ska band where I was one of a few singers. It was called the Shanties. It was a very traditional first wave type of ska band. We did all traditional first wave covers, the originals, and My Boy Lollipop and stuff like that. And that was fun. But I really wanted to do a little bit more third wave. I was always like more of a punk fan. I always liked punk since I was a little kid, but I was also I was a fan of more like second wave as well, like the Specials, because my sister, who was 11 years older than me, I always listened to her music growing up, and K-Rock radio was huge in our house when I was a kid, and that was just what they played all the time. Our house in the middle of the street, and Ghost Town, and all of that. So I just it was just presence. It was just a thing. You grew up in Orange County, you listened to all of that. I was on the radio, the Adolescents, played up the street. Black Flag was playing up the street every other week, and then I grew up and, my band Larry was playing it at the roller skating rink up the street, and someone got stabbed at the queer show next door, that night. And like, just everything worked together. And for me, I wanted to be punk adjacent.
Yeah.
And being in a punk band just wasn't something that I saw happening for me at that time. There just wasn't a lot of girls singing punk,
The weird thing about the 90s in particular is, in this, especially the second half of the 90s, is music was kind of like the Wild Wild West. You could almost do about anything and everything. Or at least from my perception, things weren't so stylistically segregated as they had been the years before and the years that followed. Like the post-internet era, it seems like music kind of went back to being compartmentalized. So you could be punk adjacent and doing a ska band that has some new wave influences and influences here and influences there, right?
Yeah, it's true. But also, like, who was I to think that, like, I was gonna in a punk band, like I was a singer. I was like a trained opera singer.
Right.
Who was I to think?
Right.
So the best that I could hope for was that I would get into a cool third wave ska band and be able to make it my own, somehow, some way.
Mission accomplished.
And so there was a band that was opening for my band, Larry, or the band I was in, Larry. It wasn't my band, it was our band, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
And this band was called Los Pantalones. And yeah, I guess they were starting another band. And they had a singer and they didn't like her. And they decided that they wanted to take a chance, and they called me. They were like, will you sing in our band? And I was like, what's your band called? And they said, we think we're going to call it Say Ferris. We're like, I really like that name. You have any songs? So like, yeah, we have some songs. Like, I'll come out. They came out and I heard the band and I said, cool. That sounds totally cool. I like your songs. They had like 4 or 5 songs. But I was like, I really like to get serious if possible. At this stage in my life, I'd like to make this a full-time job for myself. I don't, I think now's the time for me.
Yeah.
And if you guys aren't into that, then I'm not really interested. But if you are, then I think that I have enough friends and I've made enough contacts in our part of the industry down here. I'd like to manage the band and I'd like to co-write all of the new songs. That's the only thing I ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up managing the band for the next 8 months. And I got us to start headlining, which pissed all the boys off, all the boy bands, all the other boy bands off. They're like, what about seniority? Everybody.
Right.
I mean, to this day, there's still bands that you've never heard of that are like, she's such a bitch. And it still hurts my heart, Like, I'm like a 50-year-old woman now, and I'm like, oh, my heart, my like 19-year-old heart, like, wah. I wrote a song about it. It's called Goodbye Small World. That's one of the songs I want you to hear. And it's kind of about saying goodbye. It's about saying goodbye to all those boys that were so mean to me back in those days. That never let me like sit on their rides, and ride on their rides with them. And it hurt my heart.
That brings up a really good question. Like, I feel like good singers are good singers. Gender is irrelevant. Good leaders are good leaders. Gender is irrelevant. Why has there been such a boys club mentality in the music circles for so long, because I know you experienced that. You just described it, experiencing that. What is your, why is that? Because you even go back as far as like, you know, my daughter's just now starting to sing in bands. She's 17 years old. She's a fan, by the way. But yeah, it just, you go back to the mid 70s, you know, Fleetwood Mac, like nobody was gonna ever dominate Stevie Nicks. You know what I mean? And so why?
Yeah, but she had to like sleep with everybody in order for that to, like,
maybe that was a bad example.
You know?
Maybe I should have used Wendy O. Williams and talked about the Plasmatics instead.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mo.
But then look at what Wendy had to do in order to get taken seriously.
Right.
She had to like just strip naked and like cover herself in saran wrap and like whipped cream to be like, you know what? I don't care about what you think about me. And then put things inside of her in order to get people to take her serious.
From your perception, because I could never explain it from my perception as a male myself, but from your perception, why has it been like that? Why has it been such a boys' club? Why were men so intimidated by a strong female presence in a leadership role, whether it be managing the band or managing and singing in the band?
It's, God, I've spent like the last 20 years analyzing the 90s and what it was like to be a female in the 90s. And I could literally like write an entire thesis on it. I could spend the next 10 years writing a thesis on it, because I probably spent a good 15 years denying that it ever happened, because I so badly like did not want to admit that it was happening, because I just like wanted to, I wanted to deny that it was happening, because I didn't, I think it was too harsh of a reality, because if I admitted that it was actually happening, I had to admit that I was powerless over it, that I had absolutely no power, because I wasn't going to be able to change who I was.
Right.
Ever. Powerless over being a lady person, And so, that would be a very harsh admission. So while I was in the industry before I took those 10 years off, and those 10 years, that's a story. Why did I take those 10 years off? It's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was those 10 years I spent. That was a big part of why I stayed out of it for 10 years, is because I was very damaged. It was severely damaged from the 6 years I spent in say Ferris with that band, that particular band, the particular management, the particular label, that those particular people in that particular time, It was very damaged. I did not know. I was not given the tools to be able to deal with what I was given. And it's nobody's fault. It's not my fault. It's not their fault. It's just a perfect storm of a lot of dysfunction, but at the same time, there was like a lot of, there's a lot of bad behavior.
Yeah.
And
misogyny.
I come from a place. I come from a place of forgiveness, because, I say, everybody, we didn't know any better. But at the same time, some of us did. Some of us were grown up enough to have known better.
Right.
Some of us were grown ups, and we should have known better, and we should have acted better, and we should have done better. Some of us were grown ups. Some of us were not grown ups. I was still a child.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, it was the time too. In the 90s, it was a very hard time for ladies, women, girls. I don't even know what to call us, females.
Yeah.
It was a hard time for us. It was a hard time, I mean, we were just talking about that documentary on what was it, Woodstock 99?
Woodstock 99, yes. I just
so
watched
traumatizing.
it. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So traumatizing because it brought it all back. That was the time where certain bands were like, show us your tits. And it was totally normal to say to an entire audience full of girls, show us your tits. And guess what? Girls were doing it. Why? Because they were outnumbered, A. B, because if they did, then they got all this positive attention from swarms of people who were like, yay, you're cool. That's all we wanted. We just wanted people to be like, we accept you. Right? And I'll never forget, we played, I think it was a K-Rock weenie roast. And I was so sick of it. I can't remember what year it was. And I remember going out there, and I think it was the same year that one band that was like, show us your tits. And I think it was Blink 182 who was guilty of doing that.
Yeah.
And I think they were playing, and I think they did it that night. And I think I went out there and told the entire audience, show me your dicks. And it was live on the radio. And I kept saying, show me your dick, show me your dick, show me. I can't say K-Rock ever asked us to come back after that. But guess who they did ask?
Right.
Blink 182.
Right. It's crazy because I watch documentaries like the Woodstock 99 documentary and somebody that kind of came up through music. And I feel like there's more forward thinking people like myself that feel like we're generational apologists to a certain extent for behaviors that, I don't want to say I wasn't complicit in it because that would be lying. Like, I was a young man myself and my frontal cortex hadn't fully developed, not excusing it, but it's one of those things where it's cringy. It is cringy and disgusting to watch how males in particularly behaved the second and latter half of the 90s. You mentioned...
I keep talking... I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I keep talking about this perfect storm. It was like a perfect storm. It was just like everybody participated in this. Everybody participated, though. It wasn't just guys. It was like we all...
Right.
We were all complicit.
Right.
We
Absolutely.
were all complicit. Not just dudes. We all participated, though. So don't feel too bad about it. No.
Well, I still feel bad because I'm just a good dude,
I mean, obviously, you're a good dude.
Talk about the break that you took. Say Ferris released the album Modified 1999. The band came to an end in 2003, and you did take that 10-year break off, and you reevaluated things, and you took care of Monique for a while and revived Save Ferris in 2013. What was going through your mind during that 10-year layoff?
It was a lot of falling apart and then needing to heal.
Yeah.
And then climb my way back.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that. And then when I tried to bring the band back, the universe really tested me and said, how bad do you want it? So I had to fight. And that is how I gained character. That was how I gained the character that I needed. And I am so grateful that I was tested in the way that I was. Wow. Because that made me fight for this band. And it made me fight for our fans. And I will fight to the death for the people who love this band. It made me finally understand how much this band means to people, like, and how much I don't even care, like, if we're the cool band or like, like it, I don't even care what people think. Like, that's where the staying ska now more than ever came from. We had this guitar player, Patrick Ferguson, who's like one of the coolest people, one of the literally like fashion wise, tattoos, like music, taste of music, everything about him. He's our guitar player. Just one of the most artistically cool people I've ever known. And he came up with it because he's right. Like, we need ska now more than ever. Because it means something to people. And that being tested in that way made me understand how hard I'm willing to fight for. That nothing else really matters anymore.
Yeah, for sure. During that time that you were on that layoff, you appeared on albums by The Used, Hilary Duff, Goldfinger, and others. Is that, did you occupy a lot of time with music work, even though you weren't actively singing in a project during that layoff?
I was just really lucky that there were people in the industry who believed in me. John Feldman is one of those people.
He's
Charlie
the best,
Paulson,
isn't he?
Yeah, guitar player for Goldfinger, who's one of my besties. John Feldman, who, just really, they just believed in me, and they're just sort of these like guys who carried me through. I didn't really believe in myself so much, and they continued to believe in me, and they carried me in a way. And there were other producers who continued to hire me and kept me going musically and professionally. And
love it. So you revived Save Ferris in 2013. You weathered some storms that came with that, released an EP in 2017. What does that stage of Save Ferris, this revival stage, mean to you at this point in your life?
So the 2017 EP stage?
Yeah, and beyond.
That truly meant everything. Like, we have an album.
Play on words.
We have an album called It Means Everything. No. 2017 meant everything to me, truly.
Love it.
And that album meant everything to me because I spent 2 years fighting a lawsuit to be able to bring this band back to the people who wanted it. There were people who truly didn't want this band to happen anymore. There were people who truly, weren't necessarily concerned about the heart and soul of this band. They were more concerned about ego-based or fame stuff or money stuff, instead of the fans kind of stuff.
Right.
And the whole time I was just thinking of their little faces, and because when I play a show, I try and make eye contact with every single person in the audience because I've heard people talk about, and this is true, this happens sometimes. Side note. But let's put that thought aside and go here for a second. Okay. We're just going to sing it. So sometimes when you play songs for 25 years and they're songs like Spam or Under 21, okay, you're thinking of other things when you're playing of the song. You're not really thinking of the song. You're thinking of like your grocery list. I'm just going to be honest here. Let's just get real honest. I don't want to be full of shit. Okay. Thinking your grocery list. You're thinking about like, I gotta do this after I get up. I forgot to, I forgot to take the laundry out of the wash before I left the house, whatever. But for me, instead of that, what I do, and I've always done this, is I try to make eye contact with every single person in the audience. It's a little OCD thing I have. I think if I can make eye contact with every single person in the audience, then I've done my job tonight. I can just, and that was, let's go back now. And that was what I thought about through the last 2 years of lawsuit, is their little faces and their little, oh, that's all I could think about. And so I finally got to the other side of that, and it was mine. Yeah. This was mine. And I had all their little hearts inside of me. I was like, all right, I'm going to do them right. I just wanted to, mind you, I had also dealt with 10 years of blockage of like, just this overwhelming fear of writing songs again, because I was just terrified. Yeah. So I really, and Joe Barry, who was playing in the 2013 Say Ferris with me, he and I would sit together every day, and he would help me write songs and just kind of get to the other side of this sort of irrational fear that I had. I was so sad, and there was so much sadness, and there was so much felt almost like abuse, that I had to get to the other side of and shake off. So what's interesting is that, that's what this album was. This album was like, okay, there were all these different aspects of Say Ferris sound-wise, and I wanted to hit on the different facets or the different sounds of Say Ferris. So I wrote 5 songs with help that sort of cover the different sounds of Say Ferris. And then my dad got to sing on one of them. And that was really fantastic.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And speaking of She Has a Girlfriend Now, John Avila, who produced She Has a Girlfriend Now, also produced that EP.
There we go. Full circle moment.
John Avila produced She Has a Girlfriend Now when I was probably about 18 or 19 years old. And Full Circle came back.
Love it.
2017. Healed my heart and produced that.
Love that. Music, I think, really, from my observation, music in kind of the post 2010 world, if I was just to throw a date on it, it seems like it's more about creating community or as equal to creating community, equal parts creating community and creating art. I know when I speak to younger, newer bands, that's what they're focused on. They're focused less on the idea of getting the big record deal or chasing the fame as much as they are creating that parasocial relationship, kind of like what you were talking about, is locking in that eye contact, making a difference in somebody's life by just kind of interacting with them in that way. And that warms my heart to see that, specifically as a dad that's watching his kid do it right now. So, and having done it myself, so I think this is a good kind of segue to talk about where things are at right now in this moment, because a lot of big, amazing shows coming up. Let's touch on that first. You are the direct and only support of The Offspring for their 30th anniversary of Smash. You're doing that at the Honda Center on June 1st. You're playing with Goldfinger at the Wiltern on July 19th. You're doing a show with Madness, speaking of second wave ska, in Oakland on May 24th.
2 shows. 2 sold out shows.
Oh my goodness.
Madness. And we're their direct
sold
support.
out shows, ladies and gentlemen.
We're their direct support, and we're Goldfinger's direct support.
I know. That's dope. That is so dope. And I got to tell you, this one is the one that excites me the most because I'm a lame ass Midwesterner. But you are coming to Omaha, Nebraska on Tuesday, July 23rd at the Astro Amphitheater for 89.7 The Rivers Summer Bash. The Offspring, The Urge, Straight Jacket, and of course, Save Ferris. I am so pumped to come see you live. How excited are you for all of these shows?
When you just said it, like, I almost started to cry. Honestly.
Don't cry, Mo. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I just almost started to cry with gratitude. I felt very happy. Very
good.
Happy.
I'm glad. You deserve that happiness.
Very happy.
I mean, I hope you understand the level of happiness that you have brought to other people in return.
I hope I can do more of it.
Yes. And
for
you
a long
are.
time. I hope so. I really hope so.
There is one show that you did recently in Florida that I like. I wish I would have been able to go. That Brightside Music Fest that you did on April 27th. That was like all of my favorite bands on one show. And I was like, damn it. How was that?
That show was crazy. It's like, what is happening right now? I was like, what is happening? I was just walking around like, hey, hi, how are you doing? Like, it was like no time had passed whatsoever. We were back in 1998, 99.
Right. For those that don't know, it was Save Ferris, Goldfinger, 311, Story of the Year, and Sublime. Who else was on that bill?
Face to Face.
Yes.
God, I just Zebrahead.
But can you imagine like that lineup in 2024? Unwritten Law, yes. So I've had Adam from Story of the Year on my show, and I tell you what, I absolutely love those guys. Probably one of my favorite live shows.
They're great. They are so great.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, just look at all of these lineups again, not to over exaggerate, but all of these lineups are fantastic and people are getting excited about it again. So
unbelievable.
That statement on the t-shirt created by your guitarist. What was it again?
God now more than ever.
Right? Right?
That's like on everything. It's like hashtag ska now more than ever. That's our saying that he came up with on Warped Tour in 2017. He was like, Monique, ska now more than ever. We were just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Patrick Ferguson. Yeah, he's a genius. He's the coolest person I've ever met in my life. And like, he was like, heck yeah. He's right though. Like, we need it now more than ever.
Absolutely.
We really do.
Absolutely. For my friends here in Omaha, Nebraska that are listening to this locally, what can we expect at 89.7 The River Summer Bash from Save Ferris?
Okay, I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to level with you. Okay. Listen, if you're going to bring your kids to the show, I strongly suggest having a conversation with them before you bring them to the Save Ferris portion of the show. There will be some profanity. There may be some inappropriate behavior with the microphone.
There may not be. There will be.
There may be. It's possible. Okay. I apologize ahead of time. If there's some partial nudity and an occasional nipple slips out, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's not my fault. It happened.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just, okay. That's all I'm putting out there. But listen, it's all done with a sense of humor, and it comes from a place of love. Okay. That's all. That's all. And listen, no matter what happens, it's all done out of the spirit of, good times, friendship. You know what I'm saying? There's no ill will. Ever.
Oh my goodness. So before we started recording, you got the surprise that I have heard 5 new Save Ferris tracks.
This is my cat, Boo. He just wanted to say, hello.
Hello, Monique's cat, Blue.
He's a Blue. He's a flower. Okay, go on.
Before we started recording, you'd found out that I had listened to 5 brand new Save Ferris tracks. Now, this is done quite confidentially, but I got to tell you, I'm excited for these songs. I tell you, when I thought about Save Ferris, I always thought about my favorite song, The World Is New. That might have changed in the last 24 hours because I am super excited for the boundaries that you are pushing with this new music. What can you tell us about what you are working on and what the world is about to hear?
Well, Michael, I think a lot of my good fortune has come from the fact that my life has brought so many Michaels into my life within the last couple of years. Michael Bradford, who is my co-writer and producer of these tracks. Michael Parrish, who is our day-to-day management. There are so many Michaels. There are a lot of Michaels involved in this process. That being said, Michael Bradford and I have really connected on a really important level, and that is not only are we friends, but remember I told you about that whole sort of anxiety and that fear that I had around writing. Michael and I spent a lot of time just sort of talking through it in the beginning, and he really, we just sat down and we just talked about all that stuff. And totally, fully just, I don't know what it is. He has such a beautiful open heart. And we write so well together, beautifully together. And he's incredibly talented. And he makes me feel like I can, create freely and what I have to say matters. And I matter. Yeah. And what I create is good. Even the bad stuff is good.
Well, I didn't hear a bad track in the mix, and I don't need to shine ass, and I'm not a liar. So I'm going to tell you, I loved it all.
Even the bad stuff is good. Sometimes it's just not we have to play for other people. Not to make it bad. It's just, we don't need to play for anyone else.
I love the tracks because you could still see the genetics of Save Ferris in it, but you can tell that there's a lot of growth in you as a person. And I do feel that Monique Powell is bleeding through more than it just being a Save Ferris track. It's got that Save Ferris feel. That's the voice. You can visualize the songs being played live. I really liked the very pulsating London Calling vibe to Where Are You Now. I loved that. And I love how expressive you are in these songs, even the ones you didn't want me to hear.
Oh, Michael Parrish.
Oh, Michael Parrish.
Okay.
I bet he didn't think he was going to get a name drop on this podcast, but he's got one.
Twice. Like.
Oh my goodness. So where do you see things going with this new music, and where do you want to go with it?
So it helps that my boyfriend is a filmmaker. And so we have access to, like lighting and film stuff. And we had this crazy ass idea that, like, hey, like, why don't we release a song and a video every 6 weeks? I'm not sure that was a good idea, but I think we're going to try it out.
Have you started filming any of it yet?
Yes. So we have a video for Lights Out. We already did a video for the holiday song, which we already put out in December.
Right.
Our videos are silly, but we just figure we just want something to go along with the music. We're not looking to win any awards here,
But that's the world we live in now. I mean, right? Like, you got to connect the audio and the video, and it's how people become engaged, for sure.
Yeah, we're just looking to have fun with it. We're not, again, we're just looking to have fun. But it's a lot of work, a lot more work than I originally thought about when I first had that brilliant idea, Monique. Your video every 6 weeks. Do.
Oh my goodness.
But so we're gonna give it our best shot. So that's what we're looking to do, is video and a song every 6 weeks. The songs are recorded. And videos are coming along, and we'll see. We'll see.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I don't want to tie up too much more of your time, but my $1 million question, because I know you're going to have a good answer for this. And I ask this of every single one of my podcast guests, and I really think you're going to have a great answer. I'm going to repeat myself. I love that so much. But what's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today, considering everything that you've gone through, your story?
I think it has a lot to do with, okay, this is just how I feel today. This changes from day to day. But as of today, I think it has a lot to do with radical acceptance. That's definitely radical acceptance of self and others.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I've been trying to practice for a few years now. Unconditional compassion.
Love it.
Unconditional compassion. So even when I don't feel like it, practice being compassionate when I don't want to be.
I get that one.
And then the obliteration of the ego. So smashing the ego.
Yes.
So those are the kind of the three things I've been kind of working on for the past few years.
We all just got to try and do a little better every day. We can't fix things overnight.
Doing the best we can.
Yes.
That's a good one. Do the best we can today. I like that one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This has been a blast, Mo. This has been so fun. I feel like I have a new best friend. What's that?
I feel the same way about you. And I could use another Michael in my life.
Well, you've got one.
Them. I'm just collecting Michaels. Need another one. I want another one. I think that's my thing. Some years it's like, wow, I have an inordinate amount of Sagittarians in my life. 25 Sagittarians came into my life. I have a very lucky year because of that. This year, it's Michaels. I have a lot of Michaels. Very lucky year for me. Lots of Michaels.
I'm going to tell you, you mentioned Sagittarians. I was born on the borderline day of Sagittarius and Capricorn. So you kind of got a double win right here.
Wow.
Like December 22nd. So you got a Michael and a semi-Sagittarius, semi-Capricorn. So you just won the lottery, my friend.
And my sister and my boyfriend, my two favorite people in the world, Sagittarius. No.
Oh my gosh. Mo, I hope when you guys come to town on July 23rd, I hope we can give each other a high five and a hug. I want to run into you into the real world because I tell you what, the world is a much better place with you in it for sure.
Oh, you look like such a good hugger too. I can't wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, July 23rd, Astro Amphitheater, 89.7 The River Summer Bash with Offspring, The Urge, Straight Jacket, and Save Ferris. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you are all there. Monique, the world is a much better place with you in it and Blue. Thanks for doing the podcast today.